You know, when you hear the name Dan Brown, your mind probably jumps straight to Robert Langdon, right? You think of ancient conspiracies, breathless chases through some of Europe's most famous cities. But what if I told you there's a deeper formula at play here, a secret that connects all of his novels? And honestly, it has less to do with the Holy Grail and everything to do with this massive conflict that kind of defines our modern world.
So it's a fair question to ask. I mean, just imagine for a second that Brown drops a new book tomorrow, and it's called The Secret of Secrets. Now, at first glance, you might think he's completely thrown out his own playbook. And that presents this really fascinating puzzle for us to solve. Has the master of the formula finally broken his own code?
So, in this news story, let's say a scientist just vanishes, and her groundbreaking manuscript on non-localized consciousness is gone with her. Robert Langdon is there, sure, but his famous skills in symbology, they're totally sidelined. The focus has completely shifted from ancient history to, cutting-edge science. It feels like a different author entirely. Or does it? What if this big shift isn't a change at all? What if it's actually an evolution? The final step in a core argument that Dan Brown has been building for his entire career. And trust me, understanding this is the key to unlocking the true pattern hidden in all his work. Okay, so at the very heart of every single Dan Brown novel, you've got these two warring worlds. On one side, you have religion and history. We're talking the Catholic Church, the Holy Grail, Dante's vision of hell, all that stuff. And on the other side, you have science and technology, antimatter, genetic viruses, artificial intelligence. Every single one of his books is set right in that chasm between these two massive forces. And you can see this conflict play out across the entire series. I mean, think about it. In Angels and Demons, it's the Vatican versus the so-called gods of science. The Da Vinci Code pits the biological scientific humanity of Jesus against his divine image. Inferno uses a geneticist's high-tech solution to a problem inspired by classic religious art. And Origin? An AI makes a revelation that could tear down all of organized religion. You see the pattern, right? It's always been there, right under our noses. So this central conflict, that's our first major clue. But the second clue lies with our hero himself, Professor Robert Langdon. While the plots are twisting and turning and going crazy, he never, ever changes. And the real question is, why? Oof, that's a pretty sharp critique, isn't it? And as the novels have leaned more and more heavily on science, Langdon's role often seems to shrink. It really makes you wonder, what is his actual purpose in these stories, if it isn't to grow and develop like a normal character? And here's the thing, the crucial point, his stagnation is totally deliberate. Langdon isn't meant to change because he's not really a character in the traditional sense. He's a symbol. He is the constant, the stand-in for history and religion, who in every single book gets thrown headfirst into the world of science. He's basically our guide through that massive collision. So let's put the pieces of this puzzle together. We have our two big clues, a recurring conflict between science and religion, and a static hero who represents one side of that fight. When you combine those two things, you uncover the true three-step formula that powers every single Dan Brown thriller. Ready? Here it is. Step 1, science and religion clash, and it's often violent. Step 2, Robert Langdon, our man of history, is forced right into the middle of it, acting as a bridge between these two warring worlds. And finally, step 3, a temporary peace is reached. And believe me, that word, temporary, is everything. Because think about it, in a Dan Brown novel, there is never a clear winner. Science doesn't get to just debunk faith, and faith doesn't get to halt scientific progress. The resolution is always a negotiation, a kind of truce where the rivalry is put on hold, but it's never fully resolved. That tension, it always remains. And all of this brings us to the final revelation. The reason Brown uses this formula over and over again is to make a much bigger and, frankly, a much more profound argument about the nature of human knowledge itself. The entire point of manufacturing this huge dramatic clash in every single novel is to suggest that the clash itself is an illusion. Brown has basically spent his whole career arguing that these two worldviews, science and faith, are not actually enemies locked in some battle to the death. Instead, he argues they're in a symbiotic relationship. They are two essential parts of a complete picture of humanity, right? One provides meaning and morality, and the other provides logic and progress. In his world, one is fundamentally incomplete without the other. So the real secret of Dan Brown's novels isn't some hidden symbol or an ancient conspiracy after all. It's this question. He's not just rating thrillers, he's pushing us, the readers, to really consider whether these two great forces of human history are truly at war, or if maybe, just maybe, they're two different languages trying to tell the exact same story.